Hello everybody, welcome yet to another video, but this one is going to be not a repair video but rather a DDR4 memory overclocking. As you can see, I got some Trident Z's here. These I believe are Hynix DJR. Got 16 gigabyte kit here. This is currently what's running in the system that we're going to be testing today. And it is running at 4600 megatransfers per second, CL18, and tweak sub timings. The motherboard that we're going to be using today is going to be this one here. This is the Gen 3 motherboard, B550 of course. One thing I have to say real quick before I begin this overclocking tutorial, well, sort of, is that if you have a 5600 or 5700X, 5700X 3D, whatever the case may be, don't let this right here sway you away from this board. Because the difference between PCIe 3.0 and PCIe 4.0 is completely negligible when it comes to graphics cards. Now, if you're thinking about NVMe M.2s, and that is critical to you, the speeds are critical to you, then obviously I would advise that you go with Gen 4 or Gen 5 motherboards and whatnot. But if you're happy at 3.0, which I am, 3000 megabytes a second, for me, video editing and gaming, whatever, just on a daily basis, for me, that's plenty. So let's get started with the memory overclocking. We're going to be aiming as far as we can. We're going to be using a 5600G CPU today. And the reason why I want to do that is because of its monolithic, nature, the die, and because it does have a different memory controller than every other 5000 series CPU by AMD. For example, 4 CPUs that to me are very attractive is the 5500, the 5600G, the 5700, and the 5700G. All 4 of those CPUs have a different memory controller, which would allow you to overclock up to 4800 megahertz or megatransfers if you wanted to go that route. This board right now and that system there is running at 4600 megatransfers. So okay, enough of the mumbling. Let's go ahead and get to some memory overclocking. Okay, but before we go any further, just to set the stage, I want to show you what I'm talking about here. So we got 4600 megatransfers per second. You got your memory controller and the Infinity Fabric all linked at 1-to-1 ratio. 4600 megatransfers per second, CL18, 24, and whatnot. One thing you gotta keep in mind though is that these settings here that you see, these are not the XMP profile. The XMP profile settings are actually 18, 26, 26, 26, 43 I believe it was, and this is like somewhere in the high 90s or 100 or something like that. And this is 8, and this is like 12 or 16 or something like that. And this here is like 1000 or I forget what exactly it was. But anyway, I took it all out and I tested it with the 5600G Gen 3 motherboard. And here's obviously what we're talking about. But here's the actual XMP profile. So TRC 72. So I have managed to run these settings here stable 24/7. I could run at 4800, but then I have to loosen up the timings and I don't want to do that. Alright, but let's set a benchmark. Alright, so for this one we use Cyberpunk instead of Far Cry 6. I believe that Cyberpunk is actually a more demanding game, so we'll just stick with this one. For Cyberpunk, we'll use the built-in benchmark because it does utilize the CPU, memory, and graphics card all at the same time, so it is a good little benchmark. Okay, let's go to settings and change our graphics here. And set it to low. We'll skip that. Okay, everything is set to low settings, full screen, VSync off. Okay, and I'll reset the metrics as soon as the benchmark starts. Now this is at 4600 megatransfers per second. There we go. And as you can see, the CPU here is loaded pretty good. 70%. Now make no mistake, in this game, the CPU is always going to be, like in this case, with the 5600G, the CPU is going to be the weak link. When you have a powerful graphics card like a 4090, 4080, 7900 XTX, the CPU is what's going to hold you back. So it's important that you give it the fastest memory that you can tweak out to give you that extra oomph that you want. So as you can see now we're averaging about 157, 156 maybe. Yeah. Okay, so we'll say 155 average. Let's minimize this. Okay, so here we go. Average 154 FPS on Cyberpunk at 4600 megatransfers per second, low settings 1080p. All right, so now let's reset the system, install the new RAM, rerun this benchmark, but this time we'll do it with the XMP profile starting off. So yeah, let's do that. All right, so let's go ahead and reset. Restore defaults, yes. One of the most important things also to keep in mind, guys, is that you also will need Thyphoon Burner, okay? This is very important. So where do you get Thyphoon Burner? You go here, Thyphoon Burner, go to this site here. It should look like this, okay? And you just download it from here. Now, there's something that I need to cover, and it's very important that you do this because otherwise it's not going to work for you. You need to go here, settings, go to privacy and security, Windows security, go down here, device security. You need to disable core isolation. Disable this. Because Windows is going to look at Thyphoon Burner as a virus that's trying to access your memory. Okay, it's just a false negative. So just disable this. Windows will ask you to restart your computer. Then you do that. Once you come back to the desktop, go here or search and type regedit. It should look like this. Right click on it, run as administrator. Okay, and this step is very crucial. You will go to local machine, system, current control set, control, go down to CI, and then expand that. Go to config and just highlight config. You will see this here, vulnerable driver block list enable. By default, there should be a 1 here, but you want to double click on this like that. And from 1, you change that to 0, okay? Just change it to 0, close it, restart the system again, and then you'll be able to use Thyphoon Burner. Okay, so now let's get to the juicy stuff here. This is a Hynix DJR kit, okay? Meaning that the memory chips on this kit, they're made by Hynix, and this is D revision or DJR, you know, whatever, the D die. The XMP for this kit is, I believe it is 32, what is it? Yep, 32 megatransfers per second. So that's the XMP profile. Okay, there's nothing else here to really that I need to cover with you guys. So let's go now and enable the XMP profile. We will enable the XMP profile and then rerun the benchmark for Cyberpunk at that speed and see what we get in comparison to our previous benchmark at 4600 megatransfers per second. So let's reboot and start making changes. Okay, so here we are in the BIOS. With MSI, on the MSI BIOS, you will see this setup here, but the principles are still the same. If you just follow the naming, follow these steps, you should have no problem in any motherboard. Now, like I said, this motherboard it's a different beast. Okay, it loves memory overclocking, and I have actually owned 3 of them, and all 3 of them have been exactly the same. Make sure you update to the latest BIOS, by the way. It just loves memory overclocking. The memory topology on this thing is just fabulous, so I like it for that purpose. Okay, so let's just enable the XMP profile. We're not going to make any other changes other than that, and then we will take the system for a spin. Okay, so now we are on the desktop. Let's check our timings. So 16, 18, 18, 18, blah, blah, blah. 32 megatransfers per second. All right, so let's close this, open up Cyberpunk. All right, let's just check the settings again. Custom, which is low graphics settings. Still at 1080p. Excuse me. VSync off. Okay, let's run our benchmark. Now remember, this is at 3200 megatransfers per second, XMP profile. All right, and so far not bad, but you can see that this is about 20 frames per second slower than our 4600, 4600 megatransfer per second kit or setting. And I'm not really surprised by these results, as Cyberpunk is really demanding on the CPU and GPU. Okay, so there we have it. 135 FPS, so it's about 20 frames per second slower. Now keep this in mind. All we've done is just change the memory speed. Okay, that's all we've done, the memory speed and the timings, and we've increased our performance by 20 FPS. That's like going from one generation of graphics card to the next. That gives you that extra 20 FPS, and that's actually a big jump. You know what? And let's just let's just close this. Okay, let's just go to Tech Power Up. All right. So what is 20 FPS difference? What is that like? How can you get 20 extra FPS on Cyberpunk, like from any GPU that you put on there with this CPU setup? In order to do that, you would have to go from this is 70, 80, 90. So this doesn't make any sense. I don't like this. I really don't like this. So 78, 88. So it's like, if you look at this here, 3090 and 3080 is only 10 FPS difference. Okay. Now this is a beast. We're talking about 20 FPS just by changing your memory. That's ridiculous. This is so 20, so 90, 80, 70. So you would have to be here, I guess. I don't know how you can get 20 extra FPS from 4070 to a 4070 Ti. That makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, you get the point. It's like a big jump, okay, in price for graphics cards. Just to get that 20 extra FPS, you have to pay a premium, and you don't have to. You can do it for free just by tweaking out your memory. So this is why I'm making this long video. Let's go ahead and reboot into the system and see how we can manage to get even more performance out of this thing. All right, so we're back in the BIOS. So for this here, you guys just pay attention to this because this is really important. So we'll go to 4.5, okay? And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I don't want to forget my voltages when I'm overclocking. Disable this. You want slow memory training. It just give you better results, better stability. So we're going to jump to do we do 3600? DJR, you should be able to do 3800, so we'll go straight to that. Keep in mind that this 3800, these settings that I'm about to apply right now, minus the voltage, you can drop it to 1.4, so you can lower the voltage to 1.4 and change the frequency to 3600 if 3800 is not stable. So with the exact same changes that I'm making right now, except from 3800 to 3600, if 3800 is not stable for you. If 3800 is not stable, try to bump up the voltage to 1.45, okay? All right, so what are we changing? We're changing these settings, your primary timings, 22, 22, 22, and here we're gonna go to 28. We're not gonna change anything else. We want to make sure that our primary timings are stable, okay? So let's go ahead and reboot, save and reboot. Okay, so far so good. It's too early to tell. At least the system booted. Now remember, we went from 3200 to 3800, okay? Yeah, okay, so that looks okay there, but we need to test it. I use TM5. You can use memtest 86 for this, which is what I recommend that you do, and you leave it running overnight. There's also, what is it, memtest Pro, I think it is called, or something like that. You can use that as well. I use this, but let me just show you. So I use this, but then I go to load config and exit. Okay. Now I have these folder or this folder for TM5. I have it in my documents. Okay. So here, then you go to bin, and here you have your different tests that you can use. Absolute is a good configuration, but it's not like, I like PCB Destroyer. Okay. So I will stick with PCB Destroyer. You can also edit the config file. Let me just go back here. For example, you can open it with Notepad. Okay, there, and you can change how many cycles, or how many tests, to extend the length of time, okay, to give you a better result. So I like PCB Destroyer. I think it's the most reliable test using TM5. I have never had any issues like instability or anything like that. So yeah, I will stick with that. But for the sake of the video, we're gonna keep this really light because I don't have all day to be recording this and testing. So I run the default test, and again, this is not 100%. Your memory could still be unstable at this point, but you won't find out until you give it a proper test, like to ensure stability. This is just a quick little test, and for what I do, PCB Destroyer is sufficient. Like I said, every time I've overclocked my memory and I run PCB Destroyer, I let it run a couple of hours. That system is stable. I cannot get it to crash during games, applications, nothing, anything that I run on it that I run on that system is just stable. No signs of instability or errors or anything like that. So I will keep doing my thing. That's just how I do it. Okay, so our test is finished and we did not get any errors. But again, this is a light test, but it is nevertheless very promising. Now, I'm not stopping at 3800 mega transfer, so let's go ahead and reboot and see if we can push to 4000. Okay, so here we are in the BIOS. Now, remember I told you I did not want to change the voltage. Okay, I want to leave it at 1.45. This is why, because I want to keep going. And also remember to change these here, okay? So if you're going to 4000, it's got to be half your Infinity Fabric has to be half of what your RAM frequency is. And just make sure that you set this to U clock equals memory clock. So, okay, 1.45 volts. I'm not going to tweak out the timings. I'm going to leave them alone. I don't know if this is going to be stable or not, so we're just going to give it a try. All right, let's go. Okay, well, this dead boot. Let's look at our Zen timings here. Okay, so yeah, we are at 4000 mega transfers per second, 2000 Infinity Fabric and memory clock. Yeah, okay, so, or memory controller, I mean. Now, I don't know yet if this is stable, so let's go ahead and test that. Probably going to get some errors because of maybe voltage or something else that we need to tweak out. But let's see. Okay, we've reached the end of this test. That's promising. Let's go ahead and reboot. Now we're going to start doing the juicy stuff. Tweaking your sub timings. For this one here, we want to go with 68 for TRC. Now normally I would test this alone, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to go with this here. Here, let's see, 580. So we want to go with let's try 620. I don't think that's going to be enough though. Oops, nope, not here. Here, 620. 520, 420. Okay, and our TRDS and TRDL, I'm going to set this one to 6, this one to 8, TRP 12, TFAW 24. Your TFAW should be always 4 times your TRRDS, okay? And tech or TCKE, I want to set that to 1. Our SELs, we're going to set those to 4. And then gear down mode, no, we'll leave that alone. Power down, let's disable that. And proc ODT, we'll let the system decide. So let's see if these settings here are stable or not, if the system even reboots. This is kind of promising, right? Timings. Okay, so we're at 4000, and these are our final primary and secondary or sub timings tweaked out. Okay, this is what it looks like. Let's go ahead and take it for a test spin. Oh, I made a mistake. I just noticed that this is at command rate 2, so let's change that. Okay, so we reached the end of this test. This is at 4000 mega transfers per second. Now, like I said, if you want to, use this for a daily system, you want to test this further. That little test is not enough. But this is very promising. I'm going to stop here for being realistic. But you can continue to push it if you want to. Give it a little bit more voltage. 1.5 would be my max for DJR, and make sure that you have proper cooling in your casing. You should be just fine. It will not cause any harm to your RAM at 1.5 volts. I've seen kits at 1.55 and higher. So anyway, we'll stop here at 4000 mega transfers, tweaked primary and sub timings. But what does this do for gaming?
let's take it for a spin. Now keep in mind that when I was running the 4600 megatransfers per second kit, that kit also had tweaked timings, but the timings were looser than they are with this kit. So we should see very similar performance because of the timings. Okay, so we're already at very impressive numbers here. So we're at extra 15, around 15 FPS. From 3200 to 4000. We gain 15 extra FPS. Man. So far, that's not, we haven't reached the end of the benchmark yet, so we gotta wait. Not bad. It's just like if I removed the graphics card and swapped it out for a more powerful one, you know, it's that much different. Okay, so here we go, 148 FPS. That's a big difference, you know. You're gaining what, 15 extra FPS just by going from 3200 to 4000. That's quite a jump. That's quite a jump. So let's just get out of here. Close this out. So 15 FPS. What does that look like? What would you have to do to go from you know, 100 and what was it, 130 something FPS to 154 was it, or something like that? 100, yeah, something like that. So to gain 15 extra FPS, what would you have to do? So let's just go with this one here, okay, just for kicks. What are we looking at here? Okay, so what does 15 extra FPS look like? So let's just say 4060, and you add to go, okay, so to go 15 extra FPS on Cyberpunk, let's just go here, okay? So 74, so you have to be at 90, right? Am I doing my math correctly here in my head? Yeah, you have to be at 90. So you would have to go from, I don't like the 30, yeah, okay, well, it's quite a jump. Let's look at another benchmark. So I don't, 30, it can be kind of confusing when you're looking at the 3060. So let's stick with the 4070, okay? So if we're looking at the 4070, what does 15 frames per second look like? If we go from the 3080 to the 3090, so let's do some math here. I'm on the slower side, so I have to use this here. So, so 142 minus, what are we doing? 30, yeah, minus 128. That's 14. So you're going from a 3080 to a 3090, basically. Okay, just by making those changes to your memory. It's a considerable jump. Going from a 4060 Ti to, let's just, okay, we go with AMD. So 103 to, so you would have to go, no. Roughly, okay, so roughly from a 6800 to a 7700 XT. I hate that. I don't like that. But anyway, you get the point. It's a big difference. So 14 extra FPS from a 3080 to a 3090 just by tweaking out your memory. That's not something to scoff at. That's quite an improvement. And all you need to do is just follow those steps, you know. And yeah, you can achieve this with really easy. I mean, you can do this in less than 15-20 minutes, and you'll be rocking a new graphics card type of deal. All right, I hope you guys enjoy this one. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.